personality has always been seen one of the most admired professionals. And today he is, Dr. Santrup Mishra is the CEO of Carbon Black, Director Chemicals, as well as Director Group Human Resources, Aditya Birla Group, which he talks and we all know about it. Only Indian surviving and serving company for so long in this world. A big round of applause for Aditya Birla Group. I would like to introduce him first. You know, he has been named as True Belief Leader. He has been named as multidisciplinary man. He is known as thought-provoking keynote speaker. He is known as HR turned business leader of substance. As an HR professional, I feel very honored and very proud. As an HR leader, he turned to be the business leader. Not only one business, multiple businesses. Born in Orissa, 2 postgraduate degrees, one in political science and one in personnel management, we used to call it that time, and IR, industrial relations. Dr. Mishra has won 4 gold medals in his educational career, having stood first class in various university exams. He has 2 PhDs, one from India and other from Aston Business School in UK in public administration and industrial relations, respectively. Dr. Santrup Mishra has had full-time professional experience in the beginning with JK Group, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Hindustan Levers. Besides, he has been a trainer, a consultant about 40 organizations within the country. Dr. Mishra has published a book and several articles. In fact, he has won a Commonwealth Scholarship in 1990 for 3 years and was awarded the fellowship in year 2000. When you look at Dr. Mishra today, he is at Director of Aditya Birla Management Corporation Limited Board, Apex Decision Making of Aditya Birla Group, and is also responsible certainly for a group of human resources, such a large 100,000 employees around the world, which consists of blue chip companies, Grasim, Aditya Birla Novo, Hindalco, so on and so on. He is also director at the board of Ultratech Cement Company, a very prestigious company, and Aditya Birla Science and Technology Company, which is again part of Aditya Birla Group. ABG, I call it. One ABG, I remember I had discussions with Dr. Mishra, maybe 2017 about one ABG, and I'm still actually a lot of thoughts in my mind about one ABG, and we will be discussing that today. He was the president of National HRD Network for 3 years, from 2002 to 2005. Dr. Mishra has been bestowed as Outstanding HR Award by National HRD Network in 2000. He has also been conferred as the HR Professional Year Award by Indian HRD Congress. Again, a big one. And he has, in fact, had many other awards. So, I mean, I will keep on naming. Amity Business School 2005, 2007, he got RESPIC Award, Personality of the Award, Year Award, and many awards, New Millennium Award, IMA Fellowship Award, and so on and so on. In case I keep talking about this personality, I think we will take a lot of time because that is the personality. And I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, whoever has joined us from different parts of the world and whoever is going to watch us later, this personality is known as the game changer personality at ABG Group. This personality is known as mighty warrior and, above all, action-oriented personality. I tell you, in the business, of course, at Aditya Birla Group, as well as at the HRD network, when we talk about HRD Network India and NHRDN, is one of the most respected personalities of our country, who is known today in the global world. I don't know, I have no words to express my gratitude to Dr. Mishra, irrespective of so much of busyness. he could come to my show. Salute you, sir.
Thank you, DK, for having me. It's a pleasure to see you, meet you after a long time, even though it's a digital meet. And I'm very honored that you thought me worthy of coming and sharing with your colleagues, friends, and associates few thoughts of my life and my journey and whatever questions you may have. Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
Fantastic, sir. So we have a lot of people already on. Honey is from South Africa. Shantanu has joined from New Jersey. Oh, Rajiv has joined from Nigeria. Subhash Jagota, of course, has joined from Faridabad. Ladies and gentlemen, I will have questions with Dr. Mishra, and I would request you in the meanwhile to please park your questions wherever, whichever platform you are, whether you are on Zoom, Global Talent Television, YouTube, and Facebook Live. I assure you, I will try to take most of the questions from your side after I am through with Dr. Mishra. In fact, those who are on Zoom, I would certainly like to welcome and unmute you and ask questions yourself. But in the meanwhile, please park your questions on the Q&A place. Dr. Mishra, your journey of HR and business excellence, leadership excellence, of more than 3 decades, with huge experience of various countries, is known, admired. However, before I move to that, it's important for us to know, how was your upbringing as a child? Who impacted you most, your parents, your mom, your dad? Would be keen to know about your parents. I also understand, as a child at 6 years old, when speaking in English, ladies and gentlemen, please understand, and you can follow him and you can become what Dr. Mishra is today and the future leaders of business, HR. Look at this. At 6 years of age, he could not speak English and he did a debate in Oriya language. And then he today is everywhere around the world. So that was a time when you were in a 2-room school where sun, moon, and rain and clouds were around. Kindly let's tell about your childhood and how this great personality is born from the childhood. Dr. Mishra.
Well, thank you. You asking me to go on an odyssey back many years. And but all I would say is the memories of childhood always have been very great. Childhood was joyful, delightful, playful. It was plentiful but frugal. You know, my father, my mother, God bless them both. My dad is 85, my mother is 81, and both of them were like most Indian parents, were completely affectionate, devoted to bringing up me and my sister. My mom worked for some time with government of Odisha, but she was not keeping well. So she had to quit the job. And in our childhood, a couple of times, we struggled a lot to keep her alive, actually. A very critical illnesses she went through. But God's grace that she's still with us today and keeps blessing us and encouraging us. And my dad was also in the government, but was an educationist. So from childhood, I was surrounded by people with PhD degrees, D.Litt degrees, and others. So academia came always naturally to us. Education as a value always was there. And in those days, students that were outstanding, one did come across them in course of conversation with parents or met them, because in small towns, you had, they come in to meet my dad or meet other colleagues of dad around. So, you always kind of, in some ways, you were surrounded by different degrees of brilliance and excellence. Many of my father's students went on to be in civil services in different parts, and many of them very fondly remember when I bump into them here and there. So many are retired, many are still serving. So the childhood was normal. It was a bit nomadic because dad, as a government servant, used to get transferred. So that's how I never had any formal school education for 5 years. And that's how I always landed up in schools until I came to class 8, perhaps schools that time did not have any infrastructure, not to speak of great infrastructure, but has any infrastructure. But I think few things, and I think as I grow up and as I grew up, I realized parenting has a tremendous impact on the way our lives shape up and the kind of exposure we get. And if there are young parents on this call today, I would just like to say to them that as you have young family and they grow up, you would not realize what a profound influence you have on them, their thinking, their life. And don't underestimate that. Every action, reaction of yours is watched by your children, and it does make an impact. I had the benefit of my dad's very expansive thought process and leadership. My parents were fortunate enough to be perhaps the third generation educated people. My grandfather, my father's father, was a police inspector of British days. My maternal grandfather was a medical doctor of British days. And my grandfather's father-in-law was an inspector of schools in those days. So as you can well imagine, my parents were a third generation educated Indians. So at home, my dad used to talk about World War II, India's struggle for freedoms. His eldest brother was part of that. My father's eldest brother and my father had 25 years age gap. He was almost like father figure to him. So, I cannot say dining table conversation because we for a long time never had a dining table. It's much later in life that we use a dining table. But our conversation usually at home was around politics, international relations, history, and interesting phenomenon of Indian development, personalities, etc., etc. So childhood apart from home was, lots around family, lots about vacation travel. That's when I learned to travel to Tamil Nadu, Orissa, here, there, in different parts for debate competitions, etc. So I had exposure, but limited exposure, I remember having come to represent the college in a debate in Indian School of Mines in Dhanbad for a debate in the near Sevagram with the Kamal Nair Bajaj Trust in Varta, So very far off places that I traveled to, Bangalore, etc., representing the university and the college. And that was the farthest I had traveled then, So there was exposure, but limited exposure, not like today's electronic gadgets, internet, etc. Played a lot of cricket. Prior to that, played soccer, fractured my hand playing soccer. So, childhood was a great, great multitude of experiences. Small delights of life meant a lot. Whether a chilled bottle of Coca-Cola in those days or a ice cream from a retailer, which used to be stick ice cream with orange or whatever. Choices were very limited, Ice cream, a South Indian dish, were luxuries of my time, in my childhood. But I must say that if I ever get a chance to appeal to the merciful Lord to be reborn and relive my life, I would be more than honored to have my parents as my parents again. And perhaps relive my childhood in the same way as I lived it.
Wonderful, sir. Immensely profound what you spoke about. Ladies and gentlemen, see the simplicity of the personality and a good message for parenting, that we are the builders of our future generations, our children. What we do, and they understand it and they act accordingly. He talked about actions and reactions. And then he's talking about third generation educated family. Now, combination of inspector of schools and police inspector and a medical doctor. So you can see there's a lot of positivity in terms of discipline, in terms of health, in terms of being tough as well as being, soft and getting into education. Wonderful. And in fact, I can see John from Boston. John, good to see you. Yeah, you were very keen to know about this personality, and he spoke to me this morning. He said, I have heard about him, but I want to join. I can see Vidya Bhushan Dar from Toronto. I can see Professor J.D. Singh. He knows you very well, from Toronto joined. Sudarshan Banerjee has joined from Toronto. Ash Rana is from Brisbane, Australia. Vidya Bhushan Dar has joined from Toronto. Very great. Dr. Mishra, I would like to go to your journey. When and how did you plan? As I understand, you finally, after humble beginning, you pursued your political science from Cuttack, then stood first in masters in political science, and then again masters in industrial relations. At the young age, ladies and gentlemen, young age of 23, he got the PhD, one of the youngest readers in the Indian University. Then another PhD. Who mentored you at that time of period? How did you build that kind of and getting into this kind of education, getting into PhD? What I mean, the audience, the attendees would certainly pick up some of the great thoughts. Did you dream this? Did you really plan it, or it kept moving on? And because you are today a role model personality, especially for HR people, anybody you talk in the country or globally. So, can you share some thoughts on this?
Sometimes we all believe that there is nothing arguing with success, and people think that a lot of success happens with a grand, great planning, and you kind of always had a burning desire to be someone or something, and you achieve lots by doing it. But to be very honest, like most people's life, mine were a series of pleasant, productive accidents or coincidences. There were some choices involved, I must say. For example, back in Odisha, being in the top 10 in the board exam of the high school was a great thing. Your names used to come on paper, etc. You got to get inspired by that. Interestingly, I was always considered a student of that material as long as I didn't have maths and science as a subject. And if maths and science I did well, everybody believed that I would always make it to the top of the board exam. But I never liked maths and science in my school days for whatever reason. But having said that, despite that, I did outstandingly well in the board. And there I made a choice of not going to the science stream and going to liberal arts. And looking back, I believe that while I missed out the contemporary technology revolution today that's happening, not being a science graduate, but I believe that my broader outlook, my liberal outlook, came because of my parents and the liberal family environment. It was strict but liberal. It was liberally strict, I would call it, And the liberal arts education broadened and opened my mind to possibilities of many things and the interconnectedness. Now, I stood first class first in several exams, as you said, including at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, my batch. In Odisha, in those days, there was a lot of expectation that I should go and join civil services because everybody did, whoever did well in life, And there were lots of role models around me and my family. But somewhere there, I think my broader view was taking me away from that line of thinking. And that's when I saw the Tata Institute of Social Sciences admissions advertisement, which talked about a blended learning where you do classroom plus go on a practical training. It attracted me. And obviously the Indian Institutes of Management and all were not my cup of tea because you had to do also maths to do GMAT or the equivalent, and I didn't want to do maths again in my life. But I start laughing today when I look back at a CEO of two businesses that add up to almost more than $4 billion or close to that. every time I have to deal with numbers, of all kinds, projections, returns, percentages, So I look back and start laughing. I said, I thought I ran away from maths. But much later, I read somewhere, I think Michelangelo perhaps said that mathematics is the language of gods. I wish I'd known that in the childhood, and maybe I would have had a different temperament towards mathematics. But having said that, none of this was planned. When I did my first job after graduating from Tata Institute, I didn't want to be a management trainee. So I didn't go to many of the companies that were hiring management trainees, celebrated companies. But I went to whoever took me directly on the job. So I went to Straw Products with Singanias. God bless them for taking me directly on the job. But then I got the bug of doing a PhD. I was very young, as you said, and I wanted to do a PhD. So I came to do a PhD. And as I was studying, working with Tata Institute as a lecturer, finishing my PhD, I got the scholarship to go to England. And they offered me a scholarship to do a second PhD if I wanted to do. I actually wanted to do a small specialization in OD or something. Tata Institute offered me leave with pay. So scholarship, leave with pay. I was the richest man in my life at that point in time. So that's how these things happened. And, I must say that the only credit I can take for what happened to me is taking advantage of every opportunity that was presented to me. But the opportunities were not deliberate or planned. But then the inspiration came from different sources. You talked about mentoring. There were no active mentoring, but there were always silent mentors. My father, my mother, the challenges my mother would throw at me, My mother was the epitome of challenging and inspiring me in a very negative way. And her analogy to me always was, and particularly when I used to be naughty and not study and play for too long, just to tell me that, look, someday you'll see all your friends should be driving away with dust generated through their cars, and all you will be dragging your kind of torn slipper. It was a very wonderful negative way of inspiring me to give my best. And I always joke with her even today. Whenever I have a conversation with her, reminiscing about it. My father always had a vision ahead of his times. It's my father who started talking even in early 80s about computers. I don't know where he got the inspiration from. He was not a scientist or a technocrat, but he always believed and talked about computers, And now when I reflect back, I realize the man had a vision about the world that is to become. Similarly, I had school teachers, others, many of whom believed in me as an individual in different things. And I had occasion to meet many great successful people in my life, again, by accident. I'll give you a little anecdote. Dr. Hare Krishna Mehta was the governor of undivided Mumbai. He was also chief minister of Odisha later. I distinctly remember that as a school student, I was invited to interview him on All India Radio. In those days, you didn't have Zoom or MS Teams or didn't have television. On All India Radio on his 75th birthday. And I happened to ask him, in Odia language, the interview was that, sir, now you turn 75, you're so old, what would you do now? And something he said to me has remained with me, for a long time. He asked me, do I play soccer? I was a little shocked with the question. I said, yeah. He said, do you know when a goal is scored in soccer? I thought that was a funny question. You can score a goal anytime, But he said to me, mostly a goal is scored in soccer after the halftime. And he said, at 75, it is the halftime of my life. After this, I will score a goal or two. Now, coming from someone who was a governor of undivided Mumbai and was chief minister, if I recall, twice of Odisha, and a grand old 75-year-old man, and I was in class 9 or so, and interviewing him on All India Radio, when he told me this, which I remember till today, was an unbelievable outlook on transformation, on what life can be, could be. How do you think about your life? So at 75, he was thinking about scoring goals. So I had been very fortunate in my life to meet and come across people in my early life, later life, even professional life recently. Many of your audience today are very distinguished, accomplished people. So connecting with people of that kind created silent, unknown, invisible influences in my life. Call it invisible mentoring, but there was a discrete process that happened.
Yeah, I got in between out of this. Yeah, what an inspiring story of excellence. And especially when Dr. Santrup Mishra talked about the women power, the beloved mom, and giving those inspirations to challenge the child and moving forward. And especially he talked about a couple of more things which made him to do something which was not planned, but he moved forward. And in the meanwhile, I can see Rajan Datta already joined. Rajan knows Dr. Misra very well. Mr. J.P. Malhotra, the president of Faridabad Association, already joined. I can see Vivek Harkoli already joined. I can see Abhay Kapoor from Amazon already joined. I can see Ravi Saigal, the president of India Thai Chamber of Commerce, already there. I can see even the lady Simi Sood, Sajeev Sood's wife. She is already there on the show. I can see Milane from Spain already there. Lord, I can see Ajay from Germany, and I can see Supriya from Dubai already there. Ladies and gentlemen, what an inspiration. And for those, there are some students who have joined. I got calls from a couple of business schools. Can we share with students the link on Facebook? They have joined. And I would like to tell these students who are whether studying marketing, HR, finance, or any discipline, here is a story of excellence to take you forward. Now, next question. Dr. Mishra, when I moved to your professional roles, be it in the beginning at Hindustan Rivers, Tata, JK, and finally landing at Aditya Birla Group, I would be very keen to know how did you land at this great group, Aditya Birla, as a very young, dynamic HR person that time, along with a very young, dynamic Kumara Mangalam Sahab, a great personality, a great respect to him. When he had his own challenges, when Senior Birla was lost, how did you get into the role of changing the gears at Aditya Birla Group? Because Aditya Birla Group was an organization, and driven organization, probably not thought what it has vision today, action today, deliver today to the global world. So you actually have been one of the personality along with Kumara Mangalam Sahab of rebooting and revitalizing and regenerating the corporation to look it differently around the world and make it real global. You are a global Indian multinational today, which I feel proud of. Can we can we know about this journey, which is around 48, $50 billion company today in the world? How, I mean, it's a historical journey. And anyone would love to go and become a manager or a leader because there are a lot of leadership development going on. How did it happen? And how did you move those, changing the paradigm shift at Aditya Birla Group along with Mr. Kumar, with great respect to him, and both being young, around the same age. There was hardly any age difference.
Well, I think you used two expressions to describe me, saying young and dynamic HR guy I joined. Actually, I was young. I don't know whether I was dynamic. Dynamism is a matter of, discovery over a period of time. I joined the Aditya Birla Group in 1996. By the way, I just completed 25 years in the group. I think I feel very honored. I'm perhaps the longest serving HR head of any Fortune 500 company today, and I think I feel very proud about that. And in many ways, I must say I'm extremely grateful to Mr. Birla and the Aditya Birla Group for providing me a platform to be myself and to become what I became. And I must say honestly that without Aditya Birla Group as a platform and the opportunities it provided, I don't think I would have learnt as much as I have. I would have had opportunity to do the variety of things that I have, and the interesting challenges and the learnings that we have had. Uh, I was in Hindustan Lever in 1996 when Mr. Birla had just taken over as the chairman of Aditya Birla Group due to the tragic loss of his father, late Mr. Aditya Vikram Birla, who was our chairman before. And unfortunately, I never had the privilege of meeting him nor ever working with him. But Mr. Birla's office, from somewhere, and I got a call to meet him. I came and met him. And we had 2-3 rounds of conversation. And that's when I felt that he had a vision and he wanted to do something. He was trying to decide what exactly to do. I had no clue what exactly would be my role and what I could do. But I took the plunge. And funnily, I think this is little known. Many years later, I discovered it with him in conversation that I was not his first choice for the role. He wanted somebody much more experienced. Either the people more experienced he met he didn't like, or they didn't join. So willy-nilly, as fate would be, he landed up with me, So, and he said that once, and many of the colleagues who are from National HRE Network may remember once when National HRE Network was kind to confer on him the most HR-friendly CEO award. While receiving the award, he not only invited me to the stage, and he said that he thought that as a 28-year-old chairman then he was, and a 30-year-old HR head, together we'll make a mess of it. These are his words. But, then we survived somehow. And that was his generosity. But I must tell you that the transformation story of the Aditya Birla Group, a lot of the time, people like you are very kind to give me credit. But the real credit lies with Mr. Birla as the chairman for his vision to want to transform the company, and all my senior business leader colleagues and line managers who decided to make this organization great and global and modernized and fast growing and all of that. I think without that leadership and that vision, it would not have happened. As an HR leader, my job was to make sure I brought my point of view on transformation to the organization. I displayed the courage to address things that needed to be addressed. And I mustered around resources to do that. I think only that much credit I can take for it. But I believe that we were too large, too diversified to be transformed by any individual. But again, like my own personal life story, Mr. Birla nor I, nor together we, had really a grand master plan of transforming the company. We actually did what today we all very fashionably describe as agile methodology. Actually, without knowing the expression, we actually, looking back, I believe that we practiced agile methodology. We did small interventions, small experiments, small pilots, wherever it worked for us, we scaled it up. Some didn't work, we dumped it. But one key aspect of that transformation was significant investment into people development. Bringing people to the core of organizational transformation, leadership development, learning and training, people systems, retaining and preserving the ethos of care and concern that Aditya Birla Group always represented for people, and preserving the Indianness of the organization, and yet modernizing it to be global and to be confident enough to go and play the part in any part of the world. Until that time, in 1996, when I joined, we were pretty much confined to Southeast Asia. But we increasingly prepared the organization to grow through acquisition, and acquisition of global companies and their subsidiaries. Many of them we did. We acquired Indal in India, which was a subsidiary of Alcan. We acquired Madura Garments, which was a subsidiary of Coats Viola PLC. So we continued to acquire companies both in India and abroad, and we built the confidence in people to manage mergers and acquisitions, and to build a global outlook and capability to be able to go and succeed in any business environment where ethical business practice is important, intensity of competition is high, scrutiny by external stakeholders was great. How to live in those environments and provide leadership and build the organization. I think it's a marvelous story of leadership that everybody rose to the occasion. And our many leaders of yesteryears within the group did not necessarily speak Queen's English, but they had the modern mindset on how to learn new things, absorb new things, implement new things. Things like total quality management, TPM, total productive maintenance, the Deming Award, things of those that put the company into global league of excellence. My colleagues, senior colleagues, predecessors, the leadership of the group, even at that time in early 90s, brought that mindset, and which was fostered by late Mr. Aditya Bikram Birla, for people to be outward looking, competitive, He made a very beautiful sentence, he said, and it has struck a chord with me long time. He said, and I quote late Mr. Aditya Bikram Birla said this, he said, excellence comes out of small things, and excellence is no small thing, And that spirit permeated the group for a long time, and it continues to permeate today. Today also, we are always in search of small little, excellence that we can build into the organization. So that's how the transformation happened. There was no grand plan, no, it was this whole agile methodology, as you call it, today.
Wow, what a basic fundamentals he is talking about of Mr. Birla. Excellence comes out of small things, but excellence itself is not small. It's a big learning, ladies and gentlemen, taking back with us today. And when Dr. Mishra is talking about transformation, journey of Aditya Birla Group, which is taking care of people, ethos, ethics, and one of a very powerful word is Dr. Mishra, which I love, which he uses Indianness of being a global player. Indianness, ladies and gentlemen, Indianness of being a global player. And I know I have had friendship with most of the presidents of Aditya Birla Group, past and present in Thailand. I know them and I know the culture. I know how these presidents and the leaders behave, because there's massive amount of leadership development which this organization takes place. While talking on that transformation and the way Dr. Mishra would give us as if it was very simple, probably it would have not been. Moving from an entrepreneur organization to a real multinational, taking over companies around the world, building them up and creating one ABG, what he has been talking. What were the challenges? What were the issues? And how many years this intervention took place by putting this into uprising and upliftment, growing and glowing as one dream, one team, one ABG. Sir, I need to discuss one ABG. I have many ideas about one ABG. 2017, we have discussed. Someday I will come to Mumbai and discuss. How did you do? And what were the issues, challenges, and how did you mitigate those challenges?
So the challenges were many. The fundamental challenge before the organization was that a seasoned, charismatic leader like Mr. Aditya Bikram Birla was not there. And the new chairman, young though he was, capable though he was, but obviously in Indian society, whether investor community, anybody, India is a age-related society. We respect people with age and experience, Today, of course, things have changed with the startup environment. We talk about a lot of young people and our demographics is different. But if I look back in 1996, there was this behemoth called Aditya Birla Group. Compared to those days and those standards, it was $1.6 billion even at that point in time, which was pretty large, of 1996 standards. And so the vacuum that was created in the absence of a charismatic leader in Mr. Aditya Vikram Birla, that itself was a challenge, because people were long-serving, who they had an emotional connect with the leader. And the leader with whom they shared the emotional connect, he was no more there. The Birla name was there, the Birla family was there. But the individual with whom people grew up and had a connect, he was not there. Now that emotional equity needed to be replaced with another form of emotional equity that would keep people together, bounded, connected. Finding that fulcrum was a challenge. Same time, there were many projects under implementation: paper project, titanium project, seawater magnesia project, copper project. Lots of resources were deployed in many greenfield projects under development. The second challenge was which projects to continue with, which ones to kill, how early to kill, how best to kill it without impacting people's motivation. I think the Birla Group is full of passionate people, who take a project from nothing to make something very large. You go to every unit that is greenfield that you will see, back up beyond, right from Hindalco's Renukoot plant to any of them that you go anywhere. Back up beyond places, they create transformation, naturally creating. That cannot be done simply by doing your job for a salary. You require emotional commitment and passion to do it. And that's what my colleagues in Aditya Birla Group always were, even at that time. But then making choice of which one to kill, which one to grow, the portfolio choices was a challenge. There was a challenge about transforming the portfolio from being commodity businesses to go into services businesses, to go into value added, closer to the ultimate consumer. Which ones do you play? Chances of failure were high. Liberalization was rapidly coming into India. Newer business opportunities were opening up: insurance, financial services, telecom. Which ones to avail of? How do you get in? You don't have competence. You don't know how insurance business is done. How do you identify which joint venture partner you would work with? So I think challenges of all kinds were galore. A lot of our leaders had grown up in seller's market. Competition is not something that they were familiar with. How do you transform the mindset from being in seller's market to a competitive market with high customer orientation? From anything that you made, got sold to it, there is standards of quality that you need to follow. So, the learning curve was very steep before the organization. And that itself was a challenge, because how many things you can teach to how many people, how fast, and how much people can absorb in a short period. But then the landscape of Indian business was evolving so rapidly, and globalization was happening such that you didn't have time to wait to gradually, incrementally, systematically, one after the other things to learn. You go to create cohorts of learning. So we did kind of programs to create a band of people who would know how to handle M&A, band of people who would learn how to do new age fundraising of new instruments, So capability building of the newer kind that was relevant, creating IT network and infrastructure within the group, So the challenges were of many, many kinds. But again, as I would say, the credit continues to go to Mr. Birla's leadership and the cohesive teamwork and passion of people that rose to the occasion to make these challenges look not very big and insurmountable. And we continued, and I think it took perhaps the first decade to build the foundations of the new Aditya Birla Group on which it sits today.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you watching one of a great journey of excellence of a great Indian multinational around the world? And I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, 2003, when I went to Thailand to take over as global HR director with Indorama Ventures, a $160 million US company that time. And within a week, 10 days, I understood that Dr. Misra is in town and his best hotel where he stays is this Hyatt Iravan. And I sent him a message, and being a very great professional, he said, come and be with me early morning at the breakfast. And I remember I shared with him, I am here, and this company has a growth plan of going global from Thailand. And I still remember those couple of tips and these questions I had asked that time. And then we went global from Nigeria to Lithuania to one side in Alabama and one side in US in North Carolina. And that success story today is $10 billion success story in the world. And we always in our boardrooms thought about Aditya Birla company, how did they do it? So for us, it was a real case study to be followed. Of course, Indorama Ventures today has grown a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy this beautiful journey. And my next question to Dr. Mishra is, when I am going deeper to your ABG group, which is growing, glowing around the world, and I would like to know from you to the leadership, whether they are business leaders or HR leaders. I call HR leader or supply chain leader or marketing, I call everybody a business leader. What is your personal mantras to these business leaders from any field to become someone they feel proud of, follow your footsteps, even though I'm talking about as an Mr. Kumaramangalam Birla. So business leaders who are entrepreneurs, who are SMEs, who are 500,000 crore rupees companies, who are 500 crore rupees companies, and the leadership teams, what are your mantras to them to be successful and taking off to the next level of excellence?
I don't know if I have a mantra that I can share and which will apply everywhere. But what I have learned myself, perhaps, is that you cannot create anything big, transformative, grand, successful, simply all the time asking yourself the question, what is in it for me? It has to have a degree of dispassionate involvement, where in the core of your heart you want to really create something. If that is not what drives you, I don't think you can create something really great and successful, enduring, sustainable. I think that's one mantra I would say, that far too many times counting what is in it for me, what next about me, and making all my work about me reduces the impact that you can create. So I believe if we can create that little bit of larger sense of purpose, as we call it today, a larger sense of altruism, a larger sense of personal fulfillment by creating something significant, I think that's what leads to, wonderful things being created, your courage of conviction, your drive to not let constraints and obstacles or naysayers distracting you from what you can do. I think anybody, whether it's a small, large entrepreneur, chairman, CEO, a profit center head, anybody who has the privilege and fortune of holding a leadership position that can create value and impact, they must be driven by a larger sense of achieving something, not for themselves, but for their organization, other people, and that is when you are able to do your best. And I think sometimes in our material and mundane world, we sometimes are cynical and underestimate that power of purpose that can bring out the best in you. So I wish those of us who are blessed with more years of age and experience, are meaningfully able to convey and transfer this sense of significance and purpose, that can be truly transformative. And it can also create joy for people who are doing it. When I look back at the age of 30, when I joined Aditya Birla Group, I must honestly tell you, it may feel unbelievable. I was not trying to do something for myself, honestly speaking. I looked at this young chairman, I looked at this organization, I said, there's something here that can be done. And I even don't know what can be done, what could I do, nor I was trained, nor had the experience to do it. I learned it all by doing things and continue to learn even today, new things. 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, Mr. Birla gave me the chemical business to look after in addition to carbon black. Now, I'm not a chemical engineer. I know nothing of nothing, But you need to bring that spirit to learn and say, okay, what can I do with what I have been given now, And that was the same thing we did in carbon black. We were world number 4. Today we are world number 1. We transformed the quality of the business. We have launched the first recovered carbon black carbonaceous material, which is kind of consistent with our theme of circularity and sustainability. The first one, an Indian carbon black company, Indian origin, has done it. So it is all about trying to do something. I think the only mantra I would always tell people, that look beyond yourself. Then you will see the possibilities in the world and what a transformation you can bring. That's the mantra.
Beautiful. Look beyond yourself is the mantra given by Dr. Mishra. And when he is sharing the journey of excellence and he's talking about people. In the meanwhile, Jenny from Durban has already joined. Ashutosh Labru from Paris has joined. Dr. T.V. Rao has already joined here. Dr. T.V. Rao, thank you very much.
To everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for all
so I have a
joining.
lot of people joining here. Dr. Mishra, now let me come to one important aspect in the world today, talent war in the industry. Talent. Critical, most important, and learning, relearning, unlearning becoming most important and critical. And I always feel, and Padma Shri Pritam Singh, who has been my guru, you know it, and he has been associated with you also, he always used to talk, turn the designations of CEOs to CLOs and CTOs, Chief Learning Officers and Chief Talent Officers. How do you see this becoming more relevant, especially during COVID or post-COVID? Hopefully, we are going to be post-COVID soon. How do you see this relevant? With another aspect, which is a very important, as when I am quoting here, Asha Bhandarkar, whom you know personally, she came on the program and she said, DK, 3 T's, trust, transparency, and togetherness. What is your advice to CEOs and CHROs to pull companies up through the great key business processes of the company through changing the mindset and the designations from CEOs to CLOs and CTOs? What are your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of, somewhere in companies between the CEOs and CHROs, a lot of issues, challenges. But when they become both CLOs, how will it accelerate the progress of the company? What are your thoughts, sir?
I think, first of all, I think a rose is a rose is a rose, call it by whatever name, So I think as long as CEOs and line managers believe and sincerely believe that today's world is a competition based on capability, ideas, imagination, raw capacity of people to be able to bring cutting edge breakthrough innovation. And that is possible only through continuous development of people and hand-holding, inspiring people to develop themselves and create an organizational culture where business results are taken as seriously as talent development, or talent development is taken as seriously as business results, then this happens. Particularly, Indian companies must feel blessed that we had a history of Guru-Shishya relationship in this country. Many, many senior leaders took under their wings young professionals to groom them. They felt happier on how many people they have groomed and grown. While we must retain talent, we must create so much more talent that uh, you do not feel that you are kind of constrained by talent supply side. Uh, Today, when I look around, many companies in India have their CHRO who have been my colleagues in Aditya Birla Group. I'm a CHRO supply factory for India today, and we feel happy about it. That industry somewhere is acknowledging that people trained in HR in Aditya Birla Group are capable, good people. They're willing to take them. Now, one way for me to look at it is as a loss of talent. Another way to look at it is that maybe we are doing something right. Find out what is the secret sauce, keep on doing more of it. And every company has its own secret sauce. So I believe that senior managers and chief executive included, if they could demonstrably give time. I'll give you examples. We have a program called Aditya Birla Fellows. Chairman names 10 people as Aditya Birla Fellows who are capable, talented people, and he personally gives them projects and mentors them. He works with them. Now, that sets an example. He's busy, but he'll listen to their presentation. So I think setting the example of doing it would be a great way. I think whether you call them chief learning officer, chief talent officer, doesn't matter. If the temperament is not there, but you give designation, it won't work. But even if you don't give the designation, but the temperament and culture is there, it will work.
Fantastic. That means there is a need to turn thoughts into things by action. Even if you designate them, they don't act, then it doesn't work. And especially when he is talking about Aditya Birla Fellows, when the chairman has so much of time to mentor 10 people and spend time with them and listen to their presentations, that's a wow feeling to those 10 people. They must be going back home, and next day they must be really putting their things forward to make those Deming Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, in Thailand at Ang Thong, near Ayutthaya, you have a company which is Aditya Birla, which is a Deming Award company. And in fact, people from India and other places travel to that factory to have a look of what kind of factory it is. And along with that is the beautiful world-class, carbon black factory, which first factory of Aditya Birla, and now today they are number one in the world. So that is the essence of this great company. Dr. Michelle, now I am coming to COVID days. In the initial stages in 2020, India struggled, slogged to an extent, but became, by the end of year and early 21, started, becoming a healer for the world. As a country which was recognized by the global world with 1.3 billion population, not many mortalities, but suddenly then the second wave disaster came in. And other side, there were a lot of challenges we all faced, the businesses, the families, all this. Now, would you see that beyond this COVID, how Indian companies will still have an impact? Because today news is now we are already at 36 crore people. We have populated more than America. In next probably 1.5 months, we'll be vaccinating around 55 crore people. How do you see India as new India in the global world post-COVID?
See, I think India, I always believed in the potential of India, like many of you on the call and many others who understand India, believe in the potential of India. There will always be occasionally a distraction that may tell us that India perhaps has less potential than what they believe to be. But I don't think we should get fooled by occasional failures. The resilience of this country called India, the hunger that is there to excel, to succeed, to create, to achieve, to grow, to earn a name, the IT sector has shown the way. I think going forward, research and development will do the same thing on physical research. So I think India will bounce back. It may be a bit of a difficult journey for sections of society, but I believe that the collaborative way between government, private sector, civil society, the spirit of community that is there in India, I think all of this can be brought together in many innovative ways, and some of it is already underway, which will help different sections of the society to be brought back on the rail to drive the economy, drive consumption, drive earning, create exports, and all of it will happen. Maybe like sometimes when we have audacious dreams, our plans get disrupted and delayed by a couple of years within business organizations. I think sometimes same things happen in the life of an aspirational country, a nation, that you get delayed by a couple of years in realizing your aspiration. But the delay in a couple of years of realizing an aspiration in as complex as large a country like India, I think should not bother us. Rather, we should remain all focused with positivity, with hope. There will be failures always. We must acknowledge and recognize our failures, take quick steps to fix it. And I think manage our political differences, our ideological differences, our perspective differences, and always give the primacy to the idea of India and what can it become and what can be done with it, and tap into all resources, both in India and outside, who are willing to contribute with ideas, with resources, with opportunities, door opening. I think it will happen. I am a great believer in India. I was, I am, and I continue to be a believer.
Fantastic. That's a positive note of talking about India being new India. Few delays because of the disruption. Disruption is way of life, but how to mitigate disruption and keep moving forward with focus and positivity, which Dr. Mishra talked about. I can see Sagarika Ghoshal already there. Dr. VP Singh, nice to see you there. Rajneesh Baba Sahab, yes, all HR leaders around the world are joining. Dr. Mishra, now I am coming to another aspect of your personality. Huge role at Aditya Birla Group. So many companies, so many board of directors you are handling, human resources you are handling, national HRD president, so on and so on. Now, today you are not national HRD, but there is a keynote address at BIMTech. Dr. Chaturvedi will call you. There will be something going on. There will be something to do with our Pritam Singh Foundation. So many things are going on. Of course, during pandemic, travel itinerary has been low, but you are also traveling huge. How do you manage your time? And then you have family, you have board of directors, you have customers, you have stakeholders, you have HR fraternity. आप किसी को मना भी नहीं कर सकते HR fraternity में. हमने आपको रिक्वेस्ट किया, आप मना नहीं कर पाए. How do you manage businesses?
That's the most. If I have a most frequently asked question in my life, that is one, is how do I manage my time? And I myself sometimes, to be honest, surprised that I manage it. I very rarely cancel meetings. I'm always on time for my meetings. If you ask my colleagues, they will tell you 25 years, I have done HR review every quarter, unfailingly, quarter on quarter, as if I'm running a business, even when I was not running a business. My HR colleagues will tell you a business review may not happen in a quarter, but my HR review will happen unfailingly every quarter. I have done it all my life, And I kind of have learned, perhaps watching people that are more busier than me, that while at one level time is a fixed commodity, it is a beautiful way of stretching itself if there is a desire and will to accommodate more and pack more into that life, Um, there was, I have seen that, and I believe that if you want to do something, you can always find time. Yes, you have to continuously prioritize, reprioritize. You must know how much time to give to which thing. Um, for example, I'm a fairly delegated manager. I'm not a micromanager. So multiple assignment tasks, I can allocate time because I'm not afraid to fail. I don't feel the need to keep an oversight on everything and everybody at every moment in time. Colleagues who have worked with me, thank God, God bless them. Many colleagues have been very stable, long-serving colleagues with me who know what to expect from me. I know what to expect from them. So I think it is the architecture of work and life that you create, you manage to do it, there is a colleague of mine, perhaps, who would be listening now, whose daughter, as in South India, they have this Arangatam, the first public performance by a young lady after learning dancing. And that performance was on a Sunday and followed by lunch. And I told my colleague that, my every Sunday is preserved for lunch with my parents. I will come and attend your daughter's Arangatam function for 20 minutes, but I'll leave from there to go to my parents. In Bombay, as you know, distances are not easy. But with little bit of scheduling, planning, I think you can manage to meet most of your priorities. But you need to prioritize, reprioritize, and choose how much time to allocate to what, and must know your subject to know which one to focus on, which one to disengage, who to give the responsibility. I think those judgment calls, if you can make, I think, the president of US, the prime minister of India, chairman of the world's largest corporation, you, I, all of us have the same 24 hours. But how we use it.
Yeah, Dr. T.V. Rao is saying that you don't miss any review. That's being a great role model. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my last question to Dr. Mishra, I will take your questions quickly. Sir, my last question. I don't know whether you know, like new DNA of leadership, I run another movement called #WomenPower, a global movement. And this is, I took a mission along with Dr. Kiran Bedi, who was my mentor, and this called 1 million women on this platform by 2024, irrespective of caste, color, religion, nationality, around 20 chapters in the world. Every Saturday evening, something is happening on this. And we have already crossed 700,000. And I just said Cherry Blair was on the show today. It was a special show. Now, women power is, and you talked about your mom, and I also have a lot of great respect for my mom. That's why I took this initiative of women power. So I have been known as a mad person to drive this movement. And women are always much better in terms of care, compassion, and concern. How do you see women around the world, I'm not talking about any nationality, any religion, around the world, contributing to the growth of businesses, communities, as well as countries? And how will you support our movement forward? #Women Power, a global movement. I need those little commitments from your side for committing something to this movement, because this is going to be precisely a lot of well-known women have been part of this program. Even the ambassador, Madam Suchitra Durai, Thailand, Shivani, Dr. Kiran Bedi, and many global women. How do you see this going forward and this mission?
First of all, congratulations on kind of identifying an issue that is close to many people's heart, including mine, of women. I think this is not a subject of debate or discussion whether women can contribute, how much can they contribute. From McKinsey research to World Economic Forum, everywhere it has been well established that women participation in economy would far take the global GDP far greater than it is today by we doing smart things. And I think issues of women, child mortality, nutrition, access to education, bringing women back to workforce, post-maternity, ensuring artificial glass ceilings being broken, capability building, mentoring, role modeling for women, by women leaders. I think all of these are very practical, useful things to do, which you are doing, I presume, on your platform. I don't want to make commitments that I cannot keep, but all I would say is that if in any way I or we can contribute to it, we'll be happy to do that. We already do a lot of it. Just to give you a data point, when I joined Aditya Birla Group, in our management cadre, we had 0.1% women in management cadre. Today, we are close to 13-14%, in 25 years. Many women occupy senior leadership role in the group, in many line functions as well, staff functions as well. So I think this is a very, very important, laudable cause, and I'm glad that so many eminent people are associated with it. I'm sure we will make a big impact. Now, as regards people describing you as mad, take it as a compliment, because some amount of madness is necessary to make transformative leaps in life. And if people call you as mad, I think that's a good compliment. You should take it that way.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I have the first question coming in. GVS Krishnan, I worked for startup at huge MNCs like Microsoft. How difficult was it for ABG Group to share the company's leader vision and the sense of urgency to work with the same level of motivation across the world, across the board? Love to hear on this from Dr. Mishra.
Well, I think, thank you for the question. I think one is that you need to use many platforms very frequently to continue to emphasize the key messages. I think a lot of us do not kind of give it appropriate importance, and many of us do not have the skill to do it. If you repeat the same message repeatedly to people and multiple platforms through multiple means, there is a language that develops and people start believing they're part of a shared vision and transformation. It is never easy. It was never easy, particularly when we didn't have the digital technology, but the digital technology has made it easier. That simultaneously you can, with a one click on the Zoom or MS Team, you can address thousands of your colleagues right across the world with the same message, which earlier you could do only with physical town hall and you could never reach all parts of the world. So there is one part of it. Second, your leadership team must share that vision, and leadership team must work in tandem, in step with your leader's vision. And I think that you need to achieve always and well established. The third part of it is that, do you send signals to the organization that those who are moving in the right direction, doing the right things as per your vision and your expectation, are getting recognized and their work is getting appreciated and noted. And the moment people see that you are recognizing and accepting and putting people who are doing the right things into the right roles, I think that has a very, very positive, virtuous impact on people. So I think it's those small things that if you can do meaningfully, like for example, we have something called Aditya Birla Awards for Outstanding Achievements. It's our internal Oscars. What we do is every 2 years, whichever area we want to bring focus on in the company, we announce a category of award in that area. Businesses come and compete and make presentation in that area, be it innovation, be it digital, be it customer centricity, whatever that is. So depending on your culture, size of the organization, nature of goals that you want to achieve, you need to design your own ways, but the principles remain the same. Repeat the message, leadership alignment, and continue to send signals of appreciation of people who are working with you in step to make it happen. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Another question, quick one. Dr. Mishra, please share something about Ekmara Kshetra Heritage Plan, Odisha. Congrats for heading the project. What is this project? Quick. It has come from
The government of Odisha has appointed me as the chairman of a project advisory committee where what is known as Ekmara Kshetra, which is the about 80 acres of land around the Lord Lingaraj temple in Bhubaneswar, which you may know about, a very, very ancient temple. there for its redevelopment, to make it attractive for visitors, make it friendly, but at the same time preserve, protect the heritage and culture and the monuments, etc. It's a challenging, difficult project. I am not a specialist on that, but I hope to learn and bring all my management experience of managing project and harmonizing multidisciplinary things. We have bureaucrats, we have conservation architects, we have historians, we have all shades of stakeholders represented on the committee, and we have just started the work. And I don't want to talk more about it because it's at the beginning. The work itself should speak for itself rather than I speaking as to what this is.
Next question, quick one, Dr. Mishra. How do you differentiate between among all leaders? Leaders are made by avenues of resources made available and self-developed leaders, probably like you, if I am not wrong. How do you differentiate?
No, I think every leader is self-developed and every leader uses some amount of resource to develop themselves. I think if your role model are there in your family or parents, they are also a resource. You cannot say that, you developed entirely by yourself. But yes, your self-development means that even when there are great examples around you, are you willing to take the initiative to absorb the learning, and are you willing to give alternate ideas a chance, So to that extent, that initiative comes from you. But I believe none of us can claim that we're kind of developed in a cocoon without any resources. In a social system we exist, and therefore we knowingly, unknowingly draw a lot of resources from society. And that is why we need to be socially responsible, because we have benefited from society and we are outcomes of all the unknown silent gifts we have received from society. So I don't think that we can be completely so-called self-made. I think we would be too narcissistic if we believe that, we are completely self-made by ourselves and there was no contribution or no resources we used. So I would say that our initiative is important, but I think we must acknowledge that there are tremendous amount of opportunities and resources being offered without we knowing around us to us, and making use of it is our duty.
Wonderful. In fact, Dr. T.V. Rao is saying that I learned today, repeat the same message in many platforms and repeatedly. It's very useful message. He says, I have picked it from Dr. Santrup Mishra today. And
thank you. Thanks so much.
Mr. Mishra is saying, it is great to know, and I have learned a lot from the HR best practices at HCM Group, and this huge contribution to my life. And I want to put the last question because now we are racing with the time. The question comes, and it seems to be some HR professional. He says, he has kept himself anonymous. I can't read what his name is. Sir, my question as HR professional, what kind of leadership we show at difficult times like COVID to manage business continuity and people wellness if we are emphasizing on one, losing track of others?
Yes, it can sometimes be a challenge that how can you juggle many priorities at the same time. I think that is always a leadership challenge that will remain with every leader, both in times of crisis and times of normalcy.